I got this weird transmission, the strangest transmission in my life, that a plane hit the World Trade Center, and I run into the computer room to see it. I haven't gone to the office since then. The recollection of what I saw is framed in that window. Like if I had to draw what I saw, I'd have to draw the window as well. I'm a little apprehensive just looking at all these banners. I get a little choked up. So I fear going into the office that I might lose composure, but it's been long enough that maybe I can go into the office and take it in, but in a way, I don't feel ready. I don't.
Well, I biked into school that morning, but it didn't happen while I was on my bike. I was in the social studies office in room 302, and I was fiddling around the computer. I don't think I heard the first impact, and if I did, I didn't realize it. But I walked into the hallway, and I noticed immediately that all these kids were looking strange in this room, and I think it was Miss Kelly's room in 304? Yeah. They were all clustered up against the window, and, that's the end. That's the big symbol that something's going down. If you see someone else looking. Roman, one of my homeroom kids, was running out. He said something like, "Holy shoot, Palazzo! They blew up the World Trade Center again!"
When it happened, I watched the buildings fall. My wife was on the phone. She woke me up. I work late at night. I was sleeping when it was happening. She woke me up and told me to turn on the TV. And I saw the planes hit. Like, unbelievable, you know what I mean? It was like, it must be a dream, it must be a dream.
We didn't know what was going on. So when we see this psychopathic lady running down the hallway like, "I need to call my mother, I need to call my mother," and we're like, what is wrong with her? And we didn't know what was going on. So we were laughing at her. But then we heard that thing on the speakers, but we still thought it was tiny. And they were just telling us out of respect. Like when that guy died and everyone had a moment of silence. We thought it was something like that, but I saw my friend and he was telling me about all these things he was seeing out the window. And I was like, holy cow, this is big.
I wasn't really sure how a terrorist attack was supposed to be like. So when they said no one was going to school tomorrow, I was like, my brother goes to the Bronx. Can't he go? When I told my parents we were going to Brooklyn Tech, my family was like, Brooklyn? Oh. My grandma called me. My aunt in North Carolina called me. My grandma's friends all called me with numbers of people in Brooklyn. Oh, and my other aunt was like, "Oh, I know a teacher at Brooklyn Tech because she's my best friend's daughter's best friend. And here's her number." And I was like, "Do you really think I'm gonna call a Brooklyn Tech teacher? These people," because they were watching the news all the time, and it was these poor state students that are being in a ground zero high school being relocated. I mean. And then I got to Brooklyn Tech, and everybody was really mad. And I was like, we have to go check. That sucks. But hey, 1 o'clock in the morning is an okay time for me. But everybody was like, I want to go to Stein. I want to go to Stein. And I was like, have you seen Stein in the news lately? Like, there's smoke all around it. I really don't think we need to go to Stein right now. But it was kind of weird because I was in Stein only like for 3 days, and I was trying to develop some sort of system of getting to class. And at Brooklyn Tech, it was, what is this whole north, south, west thing? But like, you know, in a way, it was kind of good. Everybody was like new. It was like, it wasn't like, oh, look at the stupid freshies. It was more like, oh my God, look at the stupid Stein people. You know? So everybody was like, where the hell are all my classes? So it was like, everybody was freshmen. Like, you know, the whole freshman thing. Like, I walked into class because I walked into the wrong class because I couldn't figure out the whole number system. But like, it was happening to everyone, you know? Also, the thing was like, in the sense that we kind of took a break from what we're doing, you know? Because like the teachers didn't want to give you homework. We had 26-minute periods, and like all my classes started out with, you know, write down how you're feeling today. But oh my lordy Lou, the stairs. I remember the first day I walked up to the wrong staircase, and these Brooklyn Tech people were like spitting at me, like, go the other way. I was like, the other way? There's another way. What is this stupid up-downstairs thing? But Brooklyn Tech was all right, you know? And then getting back to Sty, everyone was all excited, like, Sty, thank God. And I was like, does anyone else realize but me that when we go back to Sty, we have to wake up at 6 in the morning, you know? I'm like, am I the only one who realizes this? Like, say goodbye to your late night friends, you know? We have to actually go to sleep early and like wake up early. And I was like, you people are stupid. Like 45-minute periods again? Are you people out of your minds?
Everyone was pretty frantic. And then I was just kind of going north on my bike, and I was trying to, people were leading groups of kids in, but I don't think anyone from Stuyvesant wanted to catch a ride, because for some reason, I couldn't find any kids that really wanted to go with me. And eventually, I was kind of biking up by myself. But I did kind of go back and forth between groups of kids, because I had my bike. The stupid thing I did was on my way down, while we were evacuating the kids, once I got my kids out, to the first floor, and they were all there. I went back up to the third floor. I felt like, this is it. We're gonna die. I had to get my bike out of there, but I had locked it in the social studies office, so that I went into the social studies office, and like the whole building's empty. And I unlocked my bike, and I brought it down. But it turned out to be a good thing, because I was like the first person to get back home that day, So I biked up. It was weird too, because the further north I biked, the more normal the city got. By the time I got to Washington Heights, you wouldn't even know anything happened at all. Well, I guess on the face of it, the gift bag was really nice. Anytime a corporation gives you lots of free swag, that's always a good deal. The actual substance of it, none of it was really, none of the gifts that I was given are going to change my life. They kind of gave us a Discman, but like low-end Discmans. But hell, it's a free Discman. Who am I to complain, It's fantastic. And, the CDs and whatnot, it was really nice. It was very thoughtful and caring, a caring thing for them to do. So I'm not gonna, say like I'm against it. I think it was great. Ideally the kids would have gotten them. You know what I mean? Like I gave most of my stuff away to kids, I got like toys and action figures and products, like some weird free popcorn. A lot of it seemed like products that they were testing, Yeah, we popped this popcorn and, you expect a certain taste when you eat popcorn, you know, and it's like, I mean, it's sweet. It's a little bit odd. I had a script committee meeting and all my kids were there. I gave away about half the stuff in my bag, but I kept some of it. The bag itself is useful. I can use it to carry my laundry down into the laundry room, so that's really cool. It was just nice, you know. I mean, I felt a little guilty. Did I really deserve this? You know, I mean, like, I guess I was helpful in, you know, evacuating and trying to get the kids out. I guess relaying messages when I was on my bike. But, you know, we were kind of just leaving the building, but I kind of feel like, you know, but it all worked out okay. So I guess it was nice. I mean, you know, it was cool. I think it was good, and I think it's a good PR for them, too. I mean, it certainly makes us, you know, predisposed to want to buy their products. And I was one of the few teachers that got a blue bag instead of a black bag, so, I mean, that was pretty special.
Well, I don't know. I guess my story is a bit different from everyone else's. For a while, I didn't have a house. I was just living in different places. I had a bag of clothes. I had one bag that sometimes got filled with stuff. If we went to like Kmart to get underwear or a t-shirt or two. And so I had this bag that was just what I carried with me right here. I had my backpack next to a plastic bag, and that was just who I was for a while. And then I went to live with my cousins upstate for a while, which was pretty weird. It was basically all I did was just sit, and we were on this lake. I think it was Great Sacandaga Lake. Just sitting, and I would just sit there and just stare at the lake, you know. When I wasn't just staring, I was shooting hoops on this board, you know, this old board that they set up on the driveway. Sometimes reading, sometimes sleeping. For a while, it was nice to sleep a lot because, you know, you don't have to think as much. If you're reading, you read, you think, you sleep a lot, and you don't have to deal with it. I don't dream for some reason. I never have. Not much, anyway. And I didn't dream during this either. No nightmares, no nothing. I just slept. Kinda like Jack Byrne and all the Kingsmen, just the great sleep. I just sat there, staying in bed for as long as I could. Then I'd wake up and, you know, do anything to occupy the time. I don't know. I was the bag man for another couple of days, you know. And then I finally got to get my stuff from my house, and that was really something. We took the train down, I think it was the 6th, and we get out, and the air was the first thing. I'm pretty sure everyone else has talked about the air, but it's something that, like, my body is just never going to forget. It's kind of like that same feeling or smell that you have at the barbecue, but it didn't. It hurt you. I could feel things building up in my esophagus or on my lungs, and that's just something I don't think I'm ever going to forget. So then we finally get home, and my house it looked like a black and white photograph. We left the windows open that day, and everything was just gray or black. Everything was just, I felt like I was, you know, walking into a portrait. The house just, when things are dirty, it's like a multi-sensory thing. It was like I guess I'm saying it again. It was like walking into a photograph. It was just dirty. It wasn't even my house anymore. But my room, which was, I don't know why, it was clean. Things looked fine. Everything was the same color it was when I remembered it. My carpet, my blue comforter, the clothes lying on the floor. They had that same exact color that they always had. Every time I wanted a change of clothes, I'd ask my mom for her wallet. This time, I could just pick some stuff. Something I had always worn before. I didn't have to break anything in. I could just put something back on, which felt really nice. In fact, I put a few of my favorite old shirts on for the rest of the day, just because I wanted to have something familiar on. My neighborhood mostly is what really bothered me. I always liked the fact that my neighborhood had just never been one of those neighborhoods that's always jumping. I mean, I remember for a while I was living in a hotel before I got to move in. It was right by Union Square, and it's kind of like a quieter type square, but things never slow down. There are always cars, there are always people. Things are moving around and things are happening. People have places to go. Things close down here. Things stop. People... I remember there were a few times in the past that I'd walk down the middle of West Broadway after coming home real late just because I could, and that was just gone.
You know, so it wasn't quite like sophomore year wasn't quite as good as I thought it was going to be, even though it was only the third or fourth day of school. After school, around 4 o'clock, I was leaving. I always wanted to take the Q train. It was a very intriguing train for me. The Q train, it goes by Kings Highway, and there's a Kaplan there, you know, the college test prep course or whatever. And I was like, oh, I think I'm going to go there after I go take my PSATs so I can do good on my SATs. And this woman next to us, she turned around and she was like really friendly. She was like, I took the Kaplan and it was terrible. I ended up studying out of my friend's Princeton review book, so I did well or whatever. And I was just like, thank you very much. And it was just so weird for someone to be so friendly. So I get off the train and all of a sudden I realize I have no clue where I'm going. The ferry leaves this time, and I had just missed that ferry. So I go down to where the ferry was supposed to be, and it's all like abandoned except for this one like Russian guy who, like, I asked him, was there a ferry here? And he was like, no speak English. So I was just like, okay. All of a sudden, the heavens like break loose and it just starts pouring. I had to run down like 3 blocks, and I was next to this one kid who was just getting off work, and this like war vet with like one leg. So I called my mom, and like there was no way I was gonna get home. So my dad came and bailed me out and he picked me up. I remember being in my room around 9 o'clock, and I was like, today was a bad day. And my mom was like, don't worry, tomorrow will be a better day. That was September 10th.
I went to all those vigils that happened in Union Square right afterwards, and it was just the most amazing experience. Like, it gave me so much faith in New York. I was almost more, like, nostalgic but optimistic and hopeful and forgiving and trusting of people. I never thought anyone could be in this situation. And I don't know, it was just everything that was missing from New York was suddenly back there again. And before, I was always thinking like, oh, I'm leaving for college. I'm never coming back here. Like, I'm gonna move to a nice, clean city where everybody likes each other. And then after this, I realized that like no matter how far I go, I always have to come back here, because the feeling that I've gotten within these last 3 months have been an irreplaceable one. Every time I walked down Fifth Avenue and saw the empty space, I would start to cry a little bit. And every time I saw someone with an American flag, I would feel a bit better. I'm not like a major nationalist or anything. It doesn't mean nationalism to me. To me, it's like spirit and like pride, and not necessarily just your country, but pride in yourself and as a person, as a community. In the flag ceremony, I chose to be the United States, which was a lot of fun. Everybody who carried the flags was awesome, and everyone was really into it. So it was really nice ceremony in general. I was very happy that I got to kind of represent America, partially just because I don't really identify with any other nation. I'm a mix of everything, so I couldn't have really attributed myself to anything besides America, but it felt really good to be able to kind of think of myself, even if it was only myself, that I was like some part of the American spirit, whatever that is. I didn't really get to see the speakers and stuff because they were all lined up, because they all lined up the flags in alphabetical order. So I was you, so I was like all the way in the back over there. But I know the mayor was there, and I know he did a really good job, because that's what all the people said. The part of the ceremony that was so good for me was just like everybody being together in the ceremony and everyone genuinely wanting to do it, and no one was forced into it. Like, people volunteered their time to be part of this thing that involved us walking all the way down to the Battery in the freezing cold and carrying these huge flags because they wanted to be part of uniting of everyone who had just been affected by it. And I don't know if people looked into it that much and that ideologically, but people wanted to represent their countries, and people wanted to be part of something that had affected them as a school. And I think that meant a lot to people that we were asked to carry the flags, just because there had been a lot of recognition about the school. But this was a little bit more than that. We were so close that we deserved to have our hand in this, because we were a part of it too. And we were helping to commemorate the people who had just been lost. And it was really beautiful. Everyone was so happy and smiley, and even though it was a sad thing, because we were commemorating 3 months after September 11th, it was really just a nice occasion, just because the park was so nice and it was so beautiful, and we put up the flags, and there were just these 82 going around this stent type thing in front of the garden, and it just reminded you that, like, regardless of what had happened, like half a mile up, there were still beautiful things below and beautiful things above, and before long there would be beautiful things there too. And it was just a good feeling to have everybody together and have everyone commemorating this event without having to be sad, with hope and with remembrance, but again with hope and optimism for what was to come, and not a negative attitude about what has happened, more of a positive attitude about what would happen.
You weren't wrong. You weren't. Nope. all those things you talked about that people want to do, this didn't need to happen. The disparity, the discomfort around the world is absurd. There's an old plotted course, and nobody cares. And the fact that, people don't have the intelligence and the consciences is tragic, but why? Why aren't you? You're an intelligent person. I'm assuming you go to Stuyvesant. You gotta put that in perspective, 3,500 people died today in the Congo. Died yesterday. September 11th, 36,000 children starved to death. I mean, everything was hunky-dory here till it happened. Because our values are twisted. That's the reality. That is global. This is a global thing. And not that you really have anything to do with it, but, as you get more access to information and resources, you want to be a part of it. It's not that you're, a bad guy or anything, but, the internet, there's a global capital, which is basically what the deal is. 45 people have 50% of the wealth in the world. And, because now the corporations are now conglomerating, it's absurd. And they don't care. A tiny example is Enron. How low can you get? These guys sold out, they cashed out their chips, and they sold their stock to their own workers, knowing that they were going to crash. To their own workers. You're talking about millionaires, the people who elected our president. So, that's the deal. It's really a real loss. This money obsession is basically the deal. Money is basically the deal. The haves and the have-nots, the history of this country relative to racism, still has not been solved. But if it was more of an equal distribution. I teach Chinese kids that just came over, and I teach American teenagers too. There are all kinds of assessments. So basically the average kids are thrown out. But your system, my system, our system, I'm a Stuyvesant graduate too. It's just the hierarchy doesn't allow for much change at the bottom. I'm wound up too. It's very difficult for me because, I try to change the way we do things. But these alternative schools, even they refuse to allow us to do anything. Everyone, they're afraid to stand up, they don't realize what's about to happen, So we're talking about a lot of people. So it happens to be a considerable population. We're talking about 1 million people here. When you vote, by the way, Giuliani, the World Trade Center notwithstanding, what he did in 8 years was basically criminal. He basically tried to destroy the system, which is absurd. You can't undermine the teachers, whatever their competence is. We need to teach the young people certain things if they want to come into this world. And we're just not doing that. Well, that's my cynical lecture for the day. Alright, fellas. Be well. I wish you guys luck, so take care now.
I think, at least for me when it first happened, the first thing I said to myself was, okay, this is the wake-up call for you and the rest of the world. This is when you're going to start living each day to the fullest. Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't happen. Really doesn't. You still don't tell all the people all you want to tell them. You're still holding back from saying certain things to certain people. You're still not living life without regret. You still, my philosophy on life hasn't changed that much. I'm not oh, now let me go out and party and, live life to the fullest. Because that's what I really wanted to do. Just enjoy life as much as I could. Because, you never know when it's gonna end. And I was busy, spending all my time with books and, schoolwork. I don't know if... Have you ever been to Rockaway? It happened on a Monday morning. Veterans Day. I was really starting to heal from the attacks. I was really starting to move on with my life. I looked out that window. I could where those houses stood. It was probably around 8 o'clock. I wake up like, I want to go back to sleep. So I was lying in bed. I guess it was like around 9:15. I hear a plane. This is all happening in like a 30-second time span. I was lying in bed in like this weird position in my covers. I just said to myself, Eddie, don't look out that window. Whatever you do, don't look out that window. It just got unbearably the worst sound you've ever heard. It was the most loudest, insane, like moaning thing, and suddenly there's a bang, and then the most gigantic roar you've ever heard in your life. We run out into the street, and like, as soon as the plane crashed, in a way I was wondering if the wall was about to come caving down on me. I figured, wow, maybe this is it for me. I was like, wow, am I about to die? It was the strangest, weird feeling. The plane flattened 3 houses, but it's just really weird that that's happened. I think September 11th, thus far in my life, was the most pivotal event of my life. It was like the most pivotal event in like the whole ever in the world, We were there for this, but I was there for the plane crash. And sometimes, you think, oh, I'm unlucky because I had to go through all of this stuff. But then, I'm lucky. Because it could have been me. It could have been my house. It just landed on the plane in Rockaway. This is my block. And it's a lot more personal. It's so close. And I'm forever grateful I didn't look out my window that day.
I guess I'm still walking every morning and after school and on the way to school and on the way home from school. I always make a point in looking over at the site at Ground Zero and just thinking that there are hundreds of people who lost their lives, and still their bodies are still there. It's sort of almost out of respect. I think about them every time I pass by. So every day I think about it. I am glad to be back here because it's our school. We feel that sense of community, a sense of getting back to normal. And I think it is in terms of being healthy physically. I think the people are saying the air quality is fine now. I think it is fine. The problem is that it can become worse than this. Our imaginations are far scarier than actual reality. I'm so impressed with all the teachers, all the students, all the administrators, how we just made this transition and picked things up and helped each other out and have new classes, new building, new schedule, new time zone. And everybody has a new office, and everybody who worked did the best they could and didn't complain. And we all have things in perspective now. it was interesting because for the first time, almost all of the classes in social studies were grouped together in the same area. They were all in this one big office and they were all working, and so I think it's almost brought us all closer together in some ways. And in the morning for the administrators, oh, it was interesting. We were all in this one office on the first floor. Normally in the morning we're scattered on the 10th floor, but this time we were brought together in one office, and it was reassuring to have everyone there to talk to and to see. And it was kind of nice in the morning having, morning being 10:30. Well, I'll tell you about one incident not long after. I think it was while we were still at Brooklyn Tech, and I was on one of those new super duper number 6 trains, you know, and there was something wrong with the announcement system where we could hear everything the conductor was saying, and the conductor was clearly speeding. I mean, it was, have you ever been on a subway train when it was speeding before? I mean, you know that this guy is going much faster than he or she is supposed to be going. I mean, this train was ripping from, it was a number 6 train, but it was going express, and it was rattling, and you could hear all their conversation, they were talking, and so I thought, I thought for a moment, what, you know, it just flashed into my mind that someone could hijack a subway train and crash it into another subway train. Have you ever seen this movie called The Taking of Pelham 123? Well, I remember watching this movie, this 1970s movie, where this group that, I don't remember their name, or if they were kidnapping the train for money or something, I don't remember stuff, you know, but they kidnapped one train on the Green Line, the 456, yeah, and I remember it just flashed into my mind as this train was racing, you know, out of control, going so fast, and we could hear all this weird conversation that we shouldn't be hearing, that there was something wrong, and I had this thought from my clearly vivid imagination, but then it stopped, and I could have gotten off and taken the local, but I stayed on the train. But, you know, we're all just coping and adjusting, and you know how adolescents are amazingly resilient. So are the teachers as well. The teachers with windows, like my window faces the World Trade Center. Some of them are coming in on the late schedule, and so they actually saw the plane hit the building. It may take some of the teachers and students who were on the late schedule longer than others to adjust. Overall, I think we're doing pretty well. I'm doing well. I was concerned about it. I was concerned I was concerned for our student population, the Muslim students we have at school, and not only the Muslim students, but students that people associate with, in any way with the events. For example, some people think that Sikhs who wear traditional turbans, or South Asians, or if you look South Asian, or if you look in any way Middle Eastern, are targeted, whether you know them or not. So just, in general, this sort of targeting, discrimination based on people who are afraid of the, quote, Middle Eastern looking, it concerned me greatly. You know, so that it got me really worried